Hello, my name is Anton Alekseyev. I'm representing ISHR here in Ukraine. Carmen wrote a couple of questions for me to answer. So you know about the situation in Ukraine and about what ISHR is doing in Ukraine. So without further ado, I will just start reading the questions and answering them. Question number 1. How is your personal situation in Poltava? How are you and your family and friends? Well, Poltava is a region in central Ukraine. I'm actually from Kiev, from the capital, but after the hostilities broke out, we had to move to Poltava. Poltava is situated on the left bank, eastern bank of Dnieper, the main river in Ukraine. So we're actually kind of closer to the hostilities. But this area is relatively quiet. We only get some air bombardment. Regarding my friends and family, most of them fled from Kiev either to the European Union or to the western part of Ukraine, mostly Lviv and other cities next to the Polish border. Alright, next question. How far are you from your hometown? About 300 kilometers. 300 kilometers away from Kiev right now. What do you know about the whereabouts of your neighbors in Kiev? Kiev was, as you know, Kiev was under siege for about a month. But right now, as far as I understand, the Russian troops are pulling out, and the situation in the capital is better than it used to be just about a week ago. Okay, next question. How is the supply of food, things of daily living, housing and medical care for you and others? This heavily varies on different regions. In some places, such as Western Ukraine, the situation with supplies is better than, for example, in the Eastern Ukraine. And that's actually what we're doing as our humanitarian mission of the ISHR here in Ukraine is trying to help people with food, with hygiene supplies, with medicine, to actually improve their living conditions, the daily living conditions that you're asking about. Okay, let's go next. How's your everyday life? Can you leave the house safely? Can your children meet other children safely? Can children go to school? No, children don't go to school because of the airstrikes. Schools don't work only through the internet. Children can use online schooling, whatever thing. How's the everyday life? Well, after a month of being in the combat zone, people actually, I think, get used to it and just start to live their lives the best they can. The problem is that there is not much they can do without any supplies and with the destruction of the regular infrastructure. Can you leave the house safely? It depends where you go and depends on the time of the day. For example, there is a night curfew. You cannot leave the houses during dark hours. Okay, let's go. Next question. How did your ISHR work change as a result of the war? What are you doing now? Well, actually, me and my team, we're lawyers, and we were doing this project, strengthening the rule of law in Ukraine and Armenia. And before the war, we were focusing on the court monitoring court hearings and stuff like this. But of course, right now we cannot do any of this, and most of our team became volunteers for the humanitarian aid. This is a new sphere for us, but we feel that this is the most important thing that we can do right now for Ukraine, for the society. So basically, our work changed drastically, but I think we're doing what we're supposed to be doing in this situation. Okay, question number 5. Please tell us about your humanitarian aid. The way from Lviv to Poltava is safe for auxiliary transports. Who carries out the transports? who will receive the relief supplies, how many people benefited from humanitarian aid, what is the biggest challenge or difficulty in this work. Well, I can tell you that for the first month, after the first months of our humanitarian activities, we helped over 1,000 people in 13 different regions of the country. That's more than half of all the regions in Ukraine. So I think we're doing pretty good with the help of the German section, with the help of other people and other organizations. For example, there is an organization in Italy that helps us with the humanitarian cargo. And I think we're actually doing better than what I was expecting us to do in the first months, because as I said, our team is small. We're not really experienced in the humanitarian activities, but we're highly motivated. So I'm pretty sure we'll actually develop further in this sphere in the next months. For example, right now we're starting to work with the United Nations as a humanitarian partner of the United Nations, and this opportunity gives us interesting knowledge, good coordination with other humanitarian organizations, and we're learning from them and actually maybe teaching them something from our own experience now. Okay, how many people I answered? Who carries out the transports? It depends. Sometimes we just use transportation companies. Sometimes it's our volunteers who transport the humanitarian aid from point A to point B. So the problem with the transportation is that you have to be really flexible. The situation changes all the time. There might be problems with fuel, problems with finding a right vehicle or finding a driver, or problems with paying the transportation companies to actually ship your supplies from one point to another. So our humanitarian activities is not just getting the humanitarian aid, but it's actually solving a bunch of logistical puzzles, and that's what we really need support for. Logistics. We mostly help people with food, hygiene items. It's mostly diapers for kids and medicine. That's the three main things that we deliver to people. What is the biggest challenge or difficulty in this work? Well, probably the biggest challenge right now is lack of resources, because when we started about a month ago, we started helping, let's say, tens of people, maybe 100 or 200 people in the first week. But then after the word spreads, people start to contact us, ask us if we can help them. And that the longer we do our humanitarian activities, the more people actually turn for help to us. And we're always and constantly looking for resources. Thank you for all of you, for the German section who actually helps us with resources. You're our main source of resources. We received humanitarian cargo just a couple of days ago from German section. We will distribute it throughout Ukraine. But as I said, we're always looking for ways to actually help more people, and this is possible only if we'll have more humanitarian cargoes, finances to actually pay for transportation, buy certain medicine, which we cannot buy, for example, in Germany. We have to buy it here in Ukraine because it's prescription drugs, and we can get it here in Ukraine or in other places, but we cannot get it in Germany. We cannot just ask our German friends to buy it over there in Germany and ship it straight here for Ukraine. That's probably the biggest problem. Okay, and to the last question, how can you continue your work as a lawyer and as a managing director of the ISHR Ukraine? The project can continue. Well, right now our main project, the strengthening of rule of law in Ukraine, is on standby because of all the hostilities, obviously. But we're working with Armenia, with our Armenian section. They actually continue to perform court monitoring, and I hope that in the near future we'll be able to continue our main project here in Ukraine, because right now we're receiving information that in certain regions of Ukraine, courts actually start working as of April. So to answer the first question, how can you continue your work as a lawyer? Well, basically, we cannot, and we are not doing anything in this sphere right now, because again, all our time is consumed by the humanitarian activities. But I think as the situation improves, we'll be able to slowly come back to the legal activities, which are also interesting and important. There are going to be a lot of work in this sphere too within the next couple of years. And at the end, I would actually like to tell you some numbers, some figures from the official United Nations report. Let me open it. Where is it? Just so you know the situation in Ukraine, not just from my perspective, but from the perspective of probably the leading international organization in the world. I'll just read some numbers from the Ukraine Flash Appeal for 2022. People affected by the conflict, UN is estimating around 18 million people affected by the conflict. 12 million out of this 18 million need help. So there is a lot of help and a lot of work for humanitarian organizations. And let me just read you the main activities that the United Nations is actually planning to focus on. Education, food security and livelihoods, health and nutrition, protection, shelter and non-food items, water, sanitation and hygiene, logistics, emergency telecommunications, coordination services. We're actually working within a couple of these sectors right now. That's mostly food security and livelihoods, health, and water, sanitation, and hygiene. This is the three clusters, as they're called in the United Nations terminology, that we actually coordinate our work with. And at the end, I would like to again thank you for all your help, for your interest and support to Ukraine, and I hope that together we will go through these hard times, and as our motto of our humanitarian aid here, humanitarian activities, humanitarian mission, whatever you can call it, here in Ukraine is stay kind. I think it's important for people to be kind in this hard times, and just to remember that it's important to help others. Thank you again, and I wish you peace.